Let us begin with a clear, friendly map of what is happening in the sky during the 2 day window of Friday, August 22nd and Saturday, August 23rd, 2025. Four distinct movements shape the mood. First, very early on Friday at 4:29 in the morning, Mercury enters a lunar mansion called Ashlesha. In simple terms, that means the planet of thinking and speaking moves into a part of the zodiac in Cancer that is known for psychological depth, intuition, and a talent for reading the fine print. Sometimes the spoken fine print, sometimes the unspoken. You can think of Ashlesha as the serpent's library, a place where words carry power and where perception can tighten like a coil or loosen like a release, depending on what you choose to do with your attention. Second, just after midnight, moving into Saturday at 1:38 in the morning, Mercury undergoes what astronomers call an ecliptic crossing. In everyday language, the ecliptic is the sun's main highway through the sky. A crossing means Mercury briefly passes through that main plane. Imagine a messenger stepping directly onto the center line of a busy road. Things feel exact, sharp, and more literal than usual. Messages land, slips of the tongue reveal meaning. Third, at 4:32 on Saturday afternoon, the Sun and Saturn are exactly 150 degrees apart, a relationship often called a quincunx. I repeat, quincunx. If opposition is a face-to-face conversation and trine is an easy handshake, the quincunx is the awkward seat on a bus where two people sit at angles that don't quite align. Nothing is wrong, but you keep adjusting the posture until it fits. That is the tone. Adjustment, calibration, small course corrections that keep the larger plan intact. The fourth important movement on Saturday night at 8:42 pm, Venus enters another lunar mansion called Pushya, which sits inside Cancer. Pushya is associated with nourishment, protection, and the steady work of building trust. Think of a warm kitchen after a long day, or the quiet joy of paying down a small debt. Venus entering Pushya invites relationships, money choices, and creative projects to slow down, simplify, and truly feed the life you want. Now let us orient ourselves to this window as one continuous experience rather than four scattered notes that I mentioned earlier. The overall signature is this: Friday opens with a focus on communication that is intimate, emotionally intelligent, and potentially persuasive because Mercury's movement into Cancer's more private waters coincides with the Moon and Venus also being in Cancer. There is a three-planet mood in that sign at the moment of Mercury's entrance. And because there are no strong hostile beams crossing that cluster at that exact hour, the tone is like a quiet room where careful conversations can actually change things. The ascendant at that moment is also Cancer, which simply means the emotional body of the day is directly at the front door. In numerology terms, The date carries the flavor of 4 and 3. 4 is structure and reality checks. 3 is optimism and growth. So the day begins with a blend of practicality and hope. As we slide into the early hours of Saturday, Mercury makes that crisp crossing of the Sun's path while still traveling with Venus in Cancer. The Moon has moved ahead into Leo to join the Sun, and Ketu is there too. So, identity and emotion are huddled together under a spotlight that encourages resets, shedding, and honest self definition. At that crossing moment, the ascendant is Gemini, a signal that the mind wants movement and conversation. The numbers of the day tilt toward 5 and 4. Quick thinking 5 with the ground seeking discipline of 4. So, we can expect both restlessness and a desire to make choices that actually hold up. By late Saturday afternoon, the Sun and Saturn take their exact awkward angle. Leadership meets reality, pride meets policy, enthusiasm meets procedure, and the wisest response is to fine tune rather than declare victory or defeat. The rising sign of that exact minute is Capricorn, Saturn's own terrain, reinforcing the need for adults in the room and timelines that are written down. And then the exhale arrives on Saturday night as Venus enters Pushya with Pisces rising, placing Jupiter as the quiet guardian in the background. There is a softness here, but not a sleepy softness. It is the softness of a person who decides to care better, to spend more wisely, to listen longer, and to measure prosperity in ease of heart as much as in numbers. Now, let us turn to the emotional side of this window. Emotions are likely to feel very close to the surface, but the flavor shifts across the 48 hours. In the earliest part of Friday, when Mercury steps into Cancer, the emotional body wants safety and honesty in equal measure. Safety without honesty becomes suppression, and honesty without safety becomes harm. The medicine of the day is to practice the art of saying what is true with a tone that is gentle, direct, and responsible. Because the moon is also in Cancer at that time, and Venus is present. The atmosphere supports conversations about home, family, partnership, and financial planning that are compassionate rather than confrontational. When a cluster forms in Cancer without hard cross pressures, it is like a living room without loud music. People hear each other. If there has been a lingering misunderstanding, the simplest, most human language will work the best. No grand speeches, no legalistic arguments. Just describe what you feel, what you see, and what you need. As night leans towards Saturday's dawn and Mercury makes that clean crossing of the sun's plane, the feeling sharpens. Sharpening does not mean harshness, it means clarity. Words fall into place. Emails that were foggy become simple. If you find yourself awake at that hour or notice the residue in the morning, there can be a moment of absolute recognition. This is what I really meant. This is what I truly want to say. At the same time, because the sun and moon are together in Leo, emotion and identity are braided and ego can feel tender. Tenderness is not weakness, it is sensitivity that asks for care. Use that care, and you will find that pride can bow without shame. By Saturday afternoon, as the Sun and Saturn form their awkward angle, feelings become responsible. It is the emotional equivalent of checking seat belts before a long drive. You are not trying to stifle joy. You are lining up joy with duty so that the trip is smoother. And when Venus steps into Pushya later in the evening, the heart shifts from fireworks to hearth fire. Many people will feel a simple desire to cook, clean, budget, or cuddle, to send a message that says, I see you, to pick up a small gift that is actually thoughtful. The emotional climate becomes calmer and more contained. If there were tears earlier in the weekend, there is a good chance they become relief by Saturday night. Now let us consider health and vitality. Energy in this window follows a curve. A dip around the late night into Saturday morning and a gentler rebuild through the day, stabilizing by the evening. The reason is simple. The identity and the feeling body are tightly conjoined for a portion of the window. When that happens, the system often quiets to process. If you feel more tired than usual or a little wobbly in mood in the early hours of Saturday, trust that the body is asking for low stimulation. Hydration and salts will help. Warm meals will help. Short naps or even eyes closed breaks will help. The neck and shoulders can hold Mercury's speed, so gentle mobility and breath work, anything that downshifts the nervous system, can make a measurable difference. Screens may be extra seductive because the mind is fast, but try to create intervals 90 minutes on, 5 to 10 minutes with a soft gaze at a far point, a walk to refill water, a few slow breaths. By Saturday afternoon, as the Sun and Saturn ask for adjustments, the healthiest approach is consistent pacing. It is fine to work diligently. Just avoid jerking the wheel between effort and collapse. Think steady flame rather than sparklers. When the evening brings Venus into that nurturing corner of Cancer, the body tends to respond well to simple rituals of care, cooking something wholesome, tidying a small area, putting on fresh sheets, turning down the lights, and preparing for a fuller night of sleep. If your week has been intense, this is an ideal time to reset sleep hygiene. If your diet has been chaotic, this is an ideal time to prepare groceries and meals that make Monday easier. Health is sometimes a math equation, macros and minutes. But this weekend, it is more a feeling of unhurried order. Now let us enter the psychological and cognitive layer. Mercury's movements rule this domain, and the message is precise. On Friday, when Mercury moves into Cancer with Moon and Venus present, your mind is powerful in the realm of empathy and pattern recognition. You can sense subtext. You can hear the tone behind the words, and you can remember details that other people might miss. The challenge is that the same gifts can turn into overthinking or subtle control. The antidote is transparency. Use your perception to clarify, not to corner. Ask questions that are open and kind. What did you mean when you said that? How can I support you without taking over? What would a good outcome feel like for you? Because there are no heavy beams crossing that Cancer cluster at the exact moment of Mercury's entrance into Ashlesha, you have an unusual opportunity to set the tone for how information flows this weekend. Think of it as a chance to move from rumor to record, from assumption to agreement. Then, at the ecliptic crossing just after midnight, the mind wants directness. If you must write, choose short sentences. If you must decide, state the decision and the next step, no more. The crossing tends to expose hidden edits in our communication. Be grateful when a slip reveals truth and respond with humility. By Saturday afternoon, when the sun's drive and Saturn's rules are rubbing, the wise mind creates a small decision matrix. What is within my control? What is dependent on others? What can be piloted in a limited way to test assumptions? People who build a tiny pilot instead of arguing a grand thesis will prosper under this sky. And when Venus slides into the nurturing zone on Saturday night, cognition shifts to caretaking logistics, budgets, timelines, meal plans, cleaning schedules, shared calendars, and the practical rhythms that make love and work feel sustainable. If there has been a cognitive noise, you will likely find a gentle quiet arrives when you put wholesome structure around your day. Now let us walk into the room of relationships and money. Because Venus and Mercury together in Cancer put a bright lamp there. Friday favors talking about feelings and finances in a way that is both emotionally literate and grounded. If a budget needs review, keep it human. Translate numbers into experiences and values. Not how much, but what for. Not a spreadsheet of guilt, but a plan that supports dignity. If a relationship needs repair, skip courtroom language. Aim for repair language. Name your part, describe the impact, and make one clear request. Because we enter the weekend with numbers 4 and 3 in the air, structure and growth. Practical promises will land better than grand shows. Early Saturday can bring honest admissions. People may say what they could not say before. If someone brings you truth at an inconvenient hour, say thank you and sleep on your response. Afternoon brings the posture check between the Sun and Saturn. Authority and affection often feel at odds under this angle. It is not a sign of doom, only a sign to separate roles with care. You may be a boss in one conversation and a partner in the next. Do not let the tone bleed in unhelpful ways. You may be a parent in one moment and a friend in the next. Adjust the instruments gently. By Saturday night, as Venus finds the kitchen and the grain bin, the relational climate softens. Grand gestures are unnecessary. Cook together, budget together, pick a modest shared project and finish it together. The wealth of the weekend is the feeling that you can make life easier for each other in specific and reliable ways. If you are single, Venus in this part of Cancer often highlights the beauty of tending to your own space and your own accounts as an act of self respect that magnetizes better partners later. If you are navigating a breakup, the same energy helps you structure the practical steps of separation in ways that protect your heart and your future. Now, let us talk about work, leadership, and the dance with institutions. The Sun in Leo wants to lead. Saturn in Pisces, moving backward in retrograde, asks whether the plan honors reality and compassion in equal measure. When they reach that exact same angle on Saturday afternoon, the sky is coaching us to choose adjustments over ultimatums. Something may not line up: a deadline with a dependency, a budget with a boundary, a permission with a policy. The best leaders this weekend will be the ones who say, let us pilot this for 2 weeks and review. Let us phase this over 3 checkpoints. Let us write down the assumptions and test one at a time. The rising sign at that hour is Capricorn, which leans into documentation. Write the dates, log the decisions, confirm the next step. Pride is not the enemy, brittle pride is. Let your competence be flexible and your confidence be teachable. If you are dealing with corporate process, ask for a tiny carve out rather than a sweeping execution. If you are dealing with creative process, choose a prototype rather than a perfect final. This is not about playing small. It is about playing smart. In a weekend designed for calibration, by the time Venus turns the evening toward care, a team dinner, a tidy workspace, or an agreed budget may do more for morale and momentum than another round of debate. Now, let us explore the spiritual and inner life in a way that even a non spiritual person can appreciate. The first half of this window is a release, a reset, and a quiet confrontation with self. When the sun and moon stand together in Leo for a portion of the window, the voice of identity is powerful. But so is the invitation to reflect. Reflection is not rumination. Reflection is the kind of stillness that allows a real answer to surface. If something in you has felt performative, this is the hour to ask, who am I if I am not performing? And what small concrete action would honor that answer? Many people feel drawn to tidy altars, visit elders, journal about family legacy, or simply speak aloud to the loved ones who shaped them, whether living or even the gone ones. If that is not your style, set a candle by your computer. Write one sentence about what you are releasing and one sentence about the virtue you intend to practice this week. Courage, patience, truthfulness, kindness, restraint, or steadiness. That is enough. The second half of the window is devotion through logistics. Love is a schedule. Faith is a grocery list that fuels your best self. Meaning is a budget that reduces fear. You will feel the truth of this when Venus changes rooms on Saturday night. If you want to feel spiritually aligned, do one caring task that your future self will thank you for on Monday morning. The world is full of dramatic displays. This weekend favors quiet competence that is rooted in care. Now, let us address the question of what to be careful of, not as a list of alarms, but as a gentle, continuous posture. The first caution is boundary blur. When perception is strong and the heart is soft, it is tempting to steer outcomes with subtle pressure. Resist the urge to persuade someone into yes. Ask clearly and let no be a legitimate answer. The second caution is impulsive messaging, especially late at night. The mind is quick and literal around the crossing, and the heart is tender. Combine the two, and you get texts you will want to revise in the morning had you sent them. If you write after midnight, use the draft folder. If you must send, keep it kind and brief. The third caution is comparing yourself to others or protecting pride at the cost of connection. It is noble to aim high. It is wiser to let love and teamwork survive the weekend. The fourth caution concerns money and promises. Because Jupiter, the planet associated with meaning and counsel, is under a challenging gaze from the point in the sky that exaggerates trends, it is easy to believe an opinion because it sounds grand. Check sources, sleep on contracts, break decisions into smaller trials. The final caution is the one that turns everything into growth. Do not argue about the system, adjust within it. There will be moments when rules feel inconvenient. Push for clarity, not for loopholes. Document requests. Be specific, be calm. Now, let us ask the practical question: how do we avert anomalies and keep the weekend on a clean track? Think in terms of tone, timing, and tiny steps. For tone, let your clarity be kind and your kindness be clear. For timing, remember that the early hours of Saturday are a low tide. Make fewer decisions then and more decisions Saturday night when the tide of care returns. For tiny steps, build pilots and check ins. If you must make a purchase, especially a discretionary one, delay it until Saturday night or Sunday morning, or set a 72-hour pause unless it is directly tied to safety and day to day function. If you must have a hard conversation, eat first, breathe first, and state one need at a time. If you feel overwhelmed by digital noise, write your tasks by hand on one page. Circle the top three and let the rest wait. If your nervous system is buzzing. Step outside. Literally feel the weight of your feet and count breaths in sets of 4. If your household needs order, choose a 15-minute reset and stop when the timer ends, trusting momentum to build gradually. These small moves seem humble, but they create an architecture that is perfectly matched to the sky. Mercury brings the words, Venus brings the care, the Sun brings the will, and Saturn brings the plan. Now, let us weave in the subtler background influences you have flagged so precisely during this week. Rahu in Aquarius has a line of sight toward the stage where the Sun and Moon stand in Leo, and it is answering back and forth with Jupiter. In plain terms, perception is amplified. The crowd's opinion feels louder. Trend lines feel seductive. Expert voices ring with conviction. The medicine for this is evidence over assumption. Keep a written record of what was said and when. Confirm time zones and links. Run numbers twice. If someone speaks like a prophet, ask for their data. If you find yourself certain that you know what someone meant, pause and verify. The difference between a rumor and a record this weekend is one clarifying question posed with grace. Equally important is the point you emphasized on the moments when Mercury enters Cancer and when it crosses the Sun's path. There are no challenging rays falling on Mercury Venus pair. In human terms, your private bubble of connection and planning can be unusually effective if you care for it. This is why so much of this forecast emphasizes tone, gentleness, and small acts of order. The quiet room exists, you can use it. Now let us create a felt sense of the time flow so you can ride it smoothly. The first chapter is Friday, pre drawn through the morning. Communications set the template. You may wake from vivid dreams with a line or two that feels like instruction. Capture it. A single sentence can save you hours later. Approach your morning messages as if you were setting a thermostat. Choose the temperature. Calm, concise, considerate. The second chapter is Friday afternoon into the late night. The mind gathers speed while the body asks for softness. Reduce stimulants. Eat warm, simple food. If a conversation starts feeling like a maze, step out of the maze rather than running faster through it. The third chapter is the early hours of Saturday. Clarity flashes. If it is inconvenient, write it down and sleep on it. If it is important to act, then act gently. The fourth chapter is Saturday late morning into the afternoon. The angle between pride and procedure sharpens. Do your seatbelt checks. Translate vision into version 1.0. Send the summary email that confirms roles, risks, and resources. The fifth chapter is Saturday evening into night. Venus takes the kitchen keys. Invite in warmth, not drama. Use your hands. Cook, fold, sweep, pack for Monday. Call the elder, hug the child, thank the colleague. Choose a small kindness with no audience. The weekend's true wealth is there. Now let us dive and give you a mindset, a simple mantra to carry through these 2 days. Something that you can speak into your room like a friend. Move slowly, state clearly, care deeply. When everything around you urges speed, remember that speed without direction is noise. When anxiety tells you to explain everything, remember that one honest sentence is enough. When cynicism tempts you to withdraw, remember that care is not weakness, it is sovereignty expressed as service. You are not required to resolve every big theme in 48 hours. You are invited to take the next right step, to make the smallest true repair, to plant one seed of order and kindness that will produce a different harvest later. Now, let us close by tying each planet to a small actionable suggestion you can feel in your body. The Sun in Leo asks you to stand in your lane of integrity. Do one thing you would be proud to have observed even if no one is watching. The Moon in Cancer and then Leo asks you to recognize the difference between comfort and courage. Choose the one that serves the moment. Mercury in Cancer asks you to say the real thing kindly. Write, pause, edit, and send. Venus in Cancer asks you to make love practical. If you cannot fix everything, fix something you touch every day. Mars in Virgo asks you to channel restlessness into useful tweaks. Sharpen a process, clean a tool, file a form that future you will thank you for. Gemini asks you to expand through learning that is grounded. Seek a short course, a chapter, a small experiment, not a theory of everything. Saturn in Pisces, moving backward, asks you to keep compassion measurable. Timelines and kindness are not enemies. Rahu in Aquarius and Ketu in Leo, between them, asks you to balance trend and truth. When in doubt, ask for evidence, and when certain, let humility remain. Uranus in Taurus asks for one small innovation in your routines that makes your body safer and your budget wiser. Neptune in Pisces, moving backward, asks you to stay hydrated, rested, and honest when your imagination is vivid. Pluto in Capricorn, moving backward, asks you to respect limits that protect transformation. Pruning is not punishment, it is preparation. Everything we have named is already in motion. You do not need to force it. The sky is asking for modesty that is intelligent and care that is organized. Friday begins with a whisper in the language of feelings, a reminder that words can be medicine when they are chosen with tenderness. Saturday morning clears the fog and brings a clean edge to understanding, but invites you to rest until your heart can carry the message with grace. Saturday afternoon checks your posture and your plan, nudging you to pilot rather than proclaim. Saturday night brings the glow of a home you can trust and a budget that breathes. If you use these 2 days to set the tone, you will feel the benefit in the week that flows. Not as a dramatic headline, but as a subtle steadiness that holds. The storm does not need to be loud to change the shoreline. These tides are enough. So, take a breath, pour a glass of water, write one true sentence, ask one kind question, make one small plan you can keep, turn down one light, let the evening show you how simple it is to be rich in the ways that matter. And as you move through this window from Friday into Saturday, remember that the most powerful alignment is not only in the sky, it is in a human being who chooses clarity over spectacle, care over hurry, and adjustment over absolutes. That human can be you right now in this room with these hands and in this life. Take care and have a great weekend.